Hello, Deernicorn Club. My name is Andy Licht. I am live here from Big Bad Con, sitting down with Alex Roberts. Alex, if you'd like to tell us a little about who you are, for those who don't know, if you'd introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Alex Roberts. I live on unceded Lekwungen territory in what's now Victoria, BC, and I make role-playing games. I made Star-Crossed. That was my first game. That came out many years ago now. I don't care to count. And people might also know me from For the Queen, which is another RPG, and a couple of other board games and other projects and things I've worked on. Yeah. Does that sum it up? Is that good?
That sounds great. That was perfect. So, for those who don't know, what is Star-Crossed?
Star-Crossed is the two-player game of Forbidden Love. It uses a Jenga tower to simulate kind of romantic tension between two people who... Basically, two characters who really, really want to, but really, really shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And they have some compelling reason not to act on their mutual attraction. And basically, you play out a series of scenes. As your characters grow closer to each other, you pull out blocks from the tower. And if the tower falls, your characters act on their feelings. And what that looks like and the outcomes of that kind of depend on you and how you've been playing the game. I think that sums it up.
That was perfect. It's like you've done that pitch before.
Perhaps.
Almost. And now I'm curious, why did you choose to make, what was the inspiration for Star-Crossed, and why did you choose to make a game about, romantic tension and love of all things, in a world where many games are about swords and fighting and conflict?
Sure. So I was actually inspired by a game called Dread by Ebediah Ravachol. It was one of the first RPGs that I played, and I fell in love with it. I still run it sometimes. And that is a horror game where when you're trying to do something and there's risk associated with it, if you pull a brick, and if the tower falls, then your character's removed from the game. It usually dies. And so I played that, and first of all, had an amazing time, and also was like, oh, someone should play this where you just have a crush on each other, or on someone, because, there's nothing more risky and vulnerable than having feelings. There's nothing more terrifying than having a crush. Mm-hmm. And so I initially started working on it just as a sort of play set for Dread. But as anyone who's played both games would know, it changed quite a bit and kind of got out of hand and became its own thing with a totally different structure and no GM and two-player and all this stuff. That's really where it came from.
I love that so much. I also love Dread, and it's funny hearing that because I think it and Star-Crossed are like yin and yang, two sides of the same. It's like two sides of the same coin. They couldn't be more different, but they're very similar in ways. Mm-hmm. So, Star-Crossed Love Letters is a new addition to Star-Crossed, something new that's adding to the game. What is Love Letters, for those who don't know?
So Love Letters is everything that people have been asking for, everything that didn't fit in the original book, everything that basically since the time it came out and now, I think, that'd be cool if that was a part of Star-Crossed. And so it has pre-generated characters, which some of them are written by me, some of them are written by other kind of RPG luminaries, and some of my favorite either fantasy and sci-fi comic book or romance authors. There's some beautiful illustrations in it that go with those pairings, but there's also rules for playing with 3 players instead of 2. Mm-hmm. People have been asking for that for a very long time, and I am very pleased to finally deliver it to them. There's rules for when you want to play a bunch of tables in an interconnected way. There's advice for playing it when you're playing with friends, or advice for playing it as part of a larger campaign. If you want to have your campaign game and then there's a side game that's just Star-Crossed, advice about how to do that. So it's a lot of different things. It is quite a grab bag. That's why we call it Love Letters, because it's just this pile of things that are just play this game in a new way. Rekindle your love of Star-Crossed.
I love that so much. So you mentioned it was, in part, Love Letters came out of the community, out of people making requests from the game. Is that what inspired you to revisit Star-Crossed and make this expansion to it? Or was there something through your own play experience where you're like, oh, I gotta add, there's something more I can do here?
Sure. Well, it's a mix. Some of the things in here, we have rules for playing Star-Crossed online without a tower, or in person without a tower. So that definitely came from people who were like, I want to play this online, or it's difficult for me to use a Jenga tower for various reasons. And so that was very much inspired by like, oh, I want to be able to support those players. And then other things are just like, I want to do that. So for example, there's solo Starcrossed. So we made Starcrossed into a one-player RPG where you are taking all the same prompts and same structure, but writing it. So it's kind of a journaling game. You're writing from one of the characters' perspectives. And that's for me. That's because I wanted to play that. I wanted a little romance story generator. And and I have actually had a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, romance authors out there in the world, pay attention, because this is like the thing. I can't imagine a better starting point. So incredible. Speaking of romantic connections, I'm aware that you work as a therapist as well. For you, what is the connection between your work with tabletop role-playing games and your work as a therapist?
This is a great question. I think, so I'm not someone who uses games like in session. I would honestly say that my work as a therapist kind of influences the way that I do games, but also the way that I play games has really influenced the way that I do therapy. I think that both of them are really about relationships, and they're also about listening to people, right? When you're learning to be a therapist and when you're learning to be a really great player, you learn that listening is not a passive act, right? It's not just not saying anything. You need to demonstrate to the other people that you are listening. You need to be able to ask follow-up questions. You need to be able to kind of attend to but quiet certain parts of yourself in order to really stay engaged with the other person and kind of set your ego aside for a moment. And so there's some connections there. And also, I think, particularly when I'm playtesting games, I'm always really, really attentive to how are people actually responding in this moment to what they are playing. So, like if two people play tested Starcrossed, I might ask them what they thought afterwards. I'd be interested in that. But I'm much more interested in like, what are the moments when they pull back? What are the moments when they lean forward? What are the moments where they like smile or laugh? And what are they actually doing in that moment? And what can that tell me about the process and what they're interested in and what they're responding to in the way that I'm hoping for?
Yeah. I love two things you said there. Well, I love a lot of it, but the two things. One, it's so interesting to hear that your game design actually informs your therapy, because I think we see now often role-playing games and story games being used in therapy as a tool. This is the first time I've heard of the inverse being true, where games are actually bleeding out into other parts of your life and influencing the way you do that. And secondly, I love what you said about, playtesting or just playing games in general, and noticing the way that other people react. Oftentimes we ask for feedback for a game and expect people to give us, give us the truth in their answer, or give us the whole everything of it. But it's so true that, if we pay attention to each other and we listen, we learn a lot more, and we can see, how we feel about things and the ways that we're interacting with them. Yeah, I think that's really, really awesome. So moving on over to other parts of your game career then, you are in with Critical Role's Darrington Press on For the Queen. How did that come about? How did that start for you?
Well, they brought me on a project called Till the Last Gasp, which is a two-player game about like climactic duels. So you play two people with a really loaded relationship, and you have it out. And so it's this combination of like slightly strategic, but mostly very dramatic. It's about having the most dramatic climactic duel that you can. So it was a game that was almost done, and then they needed some additional design on it. And I think they called me up because they were like, "You're the two-player games person, or you're the sexual tension games person." I don't know.
What a specialty! Yes.
I wear that with pride. So I think they brought me on for that reason. But I had a great experience working with them, and so then they were kind of just open to like, do you want to work on something else, or are you interested in making a game with us? And at that time, I was really interested in doing a second edition of For the Queen, and I'd been thinking about it for quite a while. So they really jumped on that, which was awesome. And so that's worked out really well.
Love it. And then, so what inspired you to make For the Queen in the first place? Initially, however long ago that was.
Oh gosh, many years ago. I actually started working on it when I was in like the very sort of finishing touches of Starcrossed. This is just general advice that I got pretty early in my career. Never just have one project on the go. Like have something that is just in the ideas phase, have something that is in like you're kind of in the meat of it, and then have something that is getting finishing touches, because it's so frustrating to be stuck in one of those phases. But if you can kind of move between them. So For the Queen was like my little side treat, was like my little just fun thing to play with. And it's definitely influenced by some games I was playing at the time. Alexandra Slontovska's The Beast, Jason Morningstar's Juggernaut, which is about a machine that can tell the future, a game called 183 Days, all these games that were just contained in a deck of cards. Right. And that was just so appealing to me as a format. The idea that like you can kind of just run a game like a program and put little if-then statements in it. Very fun to me. So it kind of came from like playing with that format, but also, I don't know, I was inspired by lots of things. I was inspired by personal relationships and weird stuff I was going through. I was also very much inspired by old Final Fantasy games and like other kind of early RPGs where like you're a little party of little guys just going around, you know, in this like mostly empty world and like fighting the same 3 goblins over and over again. Right. I played so much of those when I was younger, and always kind of had it in my mind of like, what's this like for these folks? Like, what are these? Are they talking to each other? Are they hanging out? Like, right. What's does their relationship change? Is they just kind of like, to us it's just grinding and pressing A, but like, what's that like for them? Mm-hmm. So the idea of a group of people being together and traveling together and like their relationship changing through that. As they're kind of on a greater quest, but it's not really about the quest, it's about the relationships. That kind of started from there. Yeah. But as soon as I started playtesting it, I was like, oh, it's actually about this unnamed character. It's that the whole thing is about the Queen. It's not really about these people and their relationships at all. So right. Again, games kind of take on a life of their own.
They do throughout development. So then, and for people who don't know, For the Queen is a card-based story game, role-playing game. We've talked around it here and gotten a lot of good stuff. For people who don't know, what is the elevator pitch of For the Queen?
Sure. So For the Queen is, a card-based game that is mostly just a series of questions that you answer in character. It's about a group of people who are accompanying their queen on a long and perilous and kind of mysterious journey. And at the outset of the game, you're told your character, the queen, knows that you love her. And at the end of the game, you are asked, the queen is under attack, will you defend her? And the idea is that the questions are kind of ambiguous enough and vague enough and complex enough that even if you start out being absolutely loving and loyal to the queen, by the end of the game, you might not feel that way. And the question might be very difficult or very easy.
Right. It's about change and growth along the way.
Yeah.
Marvelous. Okay, well, Alex, I won't take up all of your time here at this con. I just have one more question a couple more before we let you go. The first of which is, what advice do you have for new designers? What advice would you give to your old self as a designer, one could say?
Oh my gosh. Okay, advice to old self, take it easy, like calm down, take a nap. I really wanted to do everything all the time and work 24/7 and put my whole heart into just like take it easy. If you're frustrated, go for a walk. Like if you're watch Kiki's Delivery Service and just sort of commit that to memory. But mostly, and I really do encourage this of all designers, if you want to make games, play a lot of different games and play them with different people and play them with people who don't usually play games.
Yes.
The more that you not just reading's cool, play lots of games. And if you really want to just sort of get into design and just try that for its own sake, like I would say modify existing games, like work on mods, make a little something for it, make an adventure for it, make a character type for it, or a reskin or hack of it, because it's all there. Like you can do it. It's not like a video game where you can play it, but you can't necessarily, it doesn't mean you know the code to run it. Right. With games, it's all there on the table, and you can just start twisting dials and pulling levers. So just do it.
Totally. I love that advice. Yeah, it's like homebrew is the first step, and then, but yeah, just do it and play a lot of games. Great advice. absolutely. Play games with your friends, families. You will learn something for sure. So where, Alex, can people find you? If you want to be found, where can they find you on the internet? And do you have any upcoming projects or events or anything you'd like to highlight in the future? What should people be looking at?
Well, they can find me at probably the best place is my Patreon, patreon.com/HelloAlexRoberts. That's where I generally post about what I'm working on and what's coming next and what I'm thinking about. You can find all my stuff at helloalexroberts.caard.co. And I think the thing to watch out for is that I have some follow-ups to For the Queen that I'm working on. One of them is about a loathsome cube, and is about a cube that you hate, but maybe you want to save it in the end.
I'm sorry, about a loathsome what?
Cube.
Oh, no. Okay. A cube that we loathe.
A cube that we love.
Marvelous. Okay, carry on.
And then I'm also working on an explicitly two-player version of For the Queen, where you are people who are separated by a great distance, and you're kind of remembering each other and sending each other letters, and that's its own fun little thing.
Incredible. Okay, and do we have a timeline on either of these?
Absolutely not.
No, but keep an eye on Alex here, because they will come soon. So you said hello.caard.alexroberts, I think. And then...
helloalexroberts.caard.co, or basically patreon.com/helloalexroberts.
Or Patreon, perfect, or patreon.com. All right, Alex, thank you so much for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your con.